Judges chapter 20, verses 43. They surrounded the Benjamites, chased them, and easily overtook them near Gibeah toward the east. Thus 18,000 men of Benjamin fell, all of them were men of valor. Then the rest turned and fled toward the wilderness, to the rock of Rimmon, but they picked off 5,000 of them on the highways. They pressed hard after them to get them, and struck down 2,000 more of them. So all who fell that day of Benjamin were 25,000 men of drawing the sword. All of them were men of valor. But 600 men turned and escaped into the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, and stayed at the rock of Rimmon 4 months. The men of Israel turned back against the children of Benjamin and struck them with the edge of the sword, the entire city, the cattle, and all that they had found. They had also set on fire the towns that they had found. Judges chapter 21. Israel preserves the Benjamites. Now the men of Israel had sworn in Mizpah, saying, "None of us will give his daughter to Benjamin in marriage." So the people came to Bethel and sat there till evening before God. They lifted up their voices and wept bitterly. They said, "Adonai, God of Israel, why has this happened in Israel, that one tribe should be missing in Israel?" Then it was on the next day that the people rose up early and built an altar there, and offered burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. Then Benaiah Israel asked, "Who is there among all the tribes of Israel who did not come up to the assembly before Adonai?" For they had made a great oath concerning anyone who did not come up to Adonai at Mizpah, saying, "He will surely be put to death." Now Benaiah Israel felt sorry for Benjamin, their brother, and said, "Today one tribe has been cut off from Israel. What should we do about providing wives for those who are left, since we have sworn by Adonai not to give them any of our daughters in marriage?" And then they inquired, which one of the tribes of Israel that did not go up to Adonai at Mizpah? Then behold, no one had come to the camp from Jabesh Gilead to the assembly. For when the people were numbered, behold, not one of the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead was there. So the congregation sent 12,000 valiant warriors there, and commanded them, saying, "Go and strike the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead with the edge of the sword, with the women and the little ones. Now this is the thing that you will do. You are to utterly destroy every male and every woman who is slain with a man, So they found among the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead 400 young virgins who had not known a man by lying with him. Then they brought them to the camp at Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan. Then the whole congregation sent and spoke to the children of Benjamin, who were in the rock of Rimmon, and proclaimed shalom to them. When Benjamin returned at that time, they gave them women who they had spared from the woman of Jabesh Gilead. Yet they were not enough for them. So the people were sorry for Benjamin, because Adonai had made a breach in the tribes of Israel. And then the elders of the congregation said, "What should we do about the wives for those who are left, since the women have been destroyed out of Benjamin?" Then they said, "The survivors of Benjamin must have heirs, so that the tribe would not be blotted out from Israel. Yet we cannot give them wives of our daughters, for Benaiah Israel has sworn, saying, 'Cursed is he who gives a wife to Benjamin.'" So they said, "Behold, there is a feast of Adonai from year to year at Shiloh, which is to the north of Bethel, on the east side of the highway that goes up from Bethel to Shechem and to the south of Lebonah." So they commanded the children of Benjamin, saying, "Go and hide in the vineyards, and watch, and behold, if the daughters of Shiloh should come out to join in the dances, then come out of the vineyards, and each of you catch his wife from among the daughters of Shiloh, then go to the land of Benjamin. So it will be, if their fathers or brothers come to complain to us, then we will say to them, 'Grant them graciously for us, because we did not provide each one of them his wife in battle, nor did you give the girls to them, else you would not be guilty.' So the children of Benjamin did so, and took the number of wives from the dancers whom they carried off. Then they went and returned to their inheritance, and rebuilt the towns and settled in them. So Benaiah Israel departed from there at that same time, each man to his tribe and family. Everyone went out from there to his own inheritance. In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. 1 Samuel chapter 1. A barren woman's petition is granted. Now there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim, of the hill of the country of Ephraim. His name was Elkanah, son of Jeroham, son of Elihu, son of Tohu, son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. He had 2 wives. The name of one was Hannah, and the other one Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah was childless. Now this man used to go up from his town every year to worship and to sacrifice to Adonai Zavat in Shiloh. The 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were Kohanim of Adonai there. Then on the designated day, Elkanah would sacrifice and give portions to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he would give only 1 portion, even though he loved Hannah, for Adonai had closed her womb. Her rival would taunt her bitterly to provoke her, because Adonai had closed her womb. So it was year after year, whenever she went up to the house of Adonai, that she would provoke her. So she wept and would not eat. Then her husband Elkanah would say to her, "Hannah, why are you crying? Why won't you eat? Why is your heart so sad? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? After eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah got up. Now Eli the Kohen was sitting on his seat by the doorpost of the temple of Adonai. When her soul was bitter, she prayed to Adonai and wept. So she made a vow and said, Adonai Zavat, if you will indeed look upon the affliction of your handmaid, remember me and not forget your handmaid, but grant your handmaid a son, then I will give him to Adonai all the days of his life, and no razor will ever touch his head. It came to pass, as she prayed long before Adonai, that Eli was watching her mouth. Now Hannah was praying in her heart, only her lips were moving, but her eyes could not be heard. Her voice could not be heard. So Eli thought she was drunk. And he said to her, how long will you be drunk? Get rid of your wine. But in response, Hannah said, no, my lord, I am a woman with an oppressed spirit. I haven't been drinking wine or beer. Instead, I've been pouring out my soul before Adonai. Don't consider a handmaid a wicked woman, for out of my great anguish and grief I've been praying until now. Then Eli responded, go in shalom, and may the God of Israel grant your petition that you asked of him. May your maidservant find favor in your eyes, she said. So the woman went her way. She ate, and her countenance was no longer dejected. They rose up early in the morning and worshipped before Adonai, then went back to their home in Ramah. Then Elkanah was intimate with his wife Hannah, and Adonai remembered her. So it came past to the turn of the year that Hannah conceived and gave birth to a son. She called his name Samuel, because I have asked Adonai for him. When the man Elkanah and all his household went up to offer the annual sacrifice to Adonai and to fulfill his vow offering, Hannah did not go up, for she said to her husband, when the child is weaned, I will bring him, so he may appear before Adonai and stay there forever. So her husband Elkanah said to her, do what seems best to you, stay until you have weaned him, only may Adonai establish his word. So the woman stayed home with and nursed her son until she weaned him. When she had weaned him, she took him up with her, along with 3 bulls, 1 ephah of flour, and a jar of wine, and brought him to the house of Adonai in Shiloh, while the child was still young. After they slaughtered the bull, they brought the boy to Eli. It's me, my lord, she said. As your soul lives, my lord, I am the woman that stood by you here, praying to Adonai. For this boy I prayed, and Adonai has granted me petition that I asked him. So in turn I dedicate him to Adonai. As long as he lives, he is dedicated to Adonai. Then he bowed and worshipped there before Adonai. 1 Samuel chapter 2, Hannah's prayer of exaltation. Then Hannah prayed and said, my heart exults in Adonai, my horn is lifted high in Adonai. I smile wide over my enemies, for I rejoice in your salvation. There is none holy as Adonai, for there is none beside you, nor is there any rock like our God. Boast no more so proudly. Insolence comes from your mouth, for Adonai is the all-knowing God, and by him deeds are weighed. The bows of the mighty are broken, but the stumbling are girdled with strength. Those full hire themselves for bread, but those starving hunger no more. Even the barren gives birth to 7, but she with many sons languishes. Adonai caused death and makes alive. He brings down to Sheol and raises up. Adonai makes poor and makes rich. He brings low and also lifts up. He raises the helpless from the dust. He lifts the needy from the dunghill to make them sit with nobles, granting them a seat of honor. For the earth's pillars are Adonai's, and he has set the world on them. He guards the steps of his godly ones, but the wicked are silenced in darkness, for one does not prevail by might. Those who oppose Adonai will be shattered. He thunders against them in heaven. He judges the ends of the earth. He gives strength to his king, exalting the horn of his anointed one. Eli's son sinned against Adonai. Then Elkanah went home to Ramah, while the boy served Adonai before Eli the Kohen. Now Eli's sons were worthless men. They did not acknowledge Adonai. Now this was the custom of the Kohanim with the people whenever any man's offered a sacrifice. The Kohen's servant would come along while the meat was boiling with a 3-pronged fork in his hand, and he would thrust it into the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot. Whatever the fork brought up, the Kohen would take for himself. This is how they dealt with all the Israelites who came there to Shiloh. Even before they burned the fat, the Kohen's servant would come and say to the one offering sacrifice, give the Kohen meat for roasting, since he will not accept boiled meat from you, only raw. If the man said to him, let them first burn up the fat as smoke, then take as much as you desire, he would reply, no, but you must give it now, otherwise I will take it by force. Thus the sin of the young men was very great before Adonai, for the men despised the offering of Adonai. But Samuel was ministering before Adonai as a boy girded with a linen ephod. Moreover, his mother would make him a little robe and bring it to him from year to year when she would come up with her husband to offer an annual sacrifice. Then Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife and say, may Adonai give you offspring from this woman instead of the one she requested from Adonai. Then they would return to their place. So Adonai visited Hannah, and she conceived and gave birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters. Meanwhile, the child Samuel grew before Adonai. Now Eli had grown very old. He heard all the sons and did to all Israel and how they slept with the women who served at the doorway of the tent of meeting. So he said to them, "Why do you do such things? For I hear evil reports from all these people concerning you. No, my sons, for this is not a good report that I hear Adonai's people spreading around. If a man sins against another, God may pardon him. But if a man sins against Adonai, who will intercede for him?" But they did not listen to the voice of their father, because Adonai desired to put them to death. Meanwhile, the child Samuel kept growing and increasing in favor, both with Adonai and also with men. Now there came a man of God to Eli and said to him, "Thus says Adonai, did I not reveal myself clearly to the house of your father when they were in Egypt belonging to Pharaoh's palace? Also did I not choose them from the tribes of Israel to be my Kohanim, to officiate at my altar, to burn incense and to wear an ephod before me? Did I not give to the house of your father all the fire offerings of Bnei Israel? Why do you kick at my sacrifice and my offering, which I have commanded in my dwelling, and honor your sons above me, by fattening yourselves with the choicest of every offering of Israel, my people? Therefore Adonai, God of Israel, declares, I indeed said that your house and your father's house should walk before me forever. But now declares Adonai, far be it from me, for will I honor those who honor me, but those who despise me will be disdained. Behold, the days are coming when I will cut short your strength and the strength of your father's house, so that no one in your house will reach old age. Moreover, you will behold the distress of my dwelling, despite all that is good that has been done to Israel. So no one in your household will reach old age forever. Any man of yours that I did not cut off from my altar would make your eyes weep and your soul grieve. So all the increase of your household will die as young men. Now this will be the sign to you that will come on your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, as on the same day both of them will die. Yet I will raise up for myself a faithful Kohen who will do according to what is in my heart and my mind. Then I will build him an enduring house, and he will walk before my anointed one all the time. Anyone left in your household will come and bow low to him for a piece of silver and a loaf of bread, and will say, please assign me to one of the priestly offices so that I may eat a morsel of bread.